Many wonder how the Ukrainian conflict and war with Russia fits into Bible prophecy. Is this the war of Ezekiel 38 and 39? Well, I don't believe it is, at least not at present. At the present time, one of the key players in this conflict is the United States. I don't see that America is directly referenced in Ezekiel chapters 38 and 39. Furthermore, Ezekiel 38 verse 5 mentions Iran, Libya, and Ethiopia as being involved, and those nations are not yet part of the scenario. In Ezekiel 38:16, the invaders will come against Israel like a cloud covering the land, and it will happen in the last days. That is certainly not true at the present time. The assault is not against Israel, but against Ukraine. But there's another problem in trying to identify this current Ukrainian conflict with Ezekiel 38 and 39, and that is there's disagreement regarding the timing of the war of Gog and Magog. There are several different views held by competent prophetic researchers. First, there are those who believe the Gog-Magog war occurs before the rapture and the tribulation. This view coincides with the 7-year tribulation period. In other words, the 7 years of burning the dead, mentioned in Ezekiel 39:9, correspond to the 7-year tribulation period. This is the view of Tim LaHaye and Jerry Jenkins in the Left Behind series. However, the idea that the Gog-Magog war takes place before the rapture seems to not fit in with Ezekiel 38 verses 8 and 16 that tell us the war takes place in the last days and in the latter years. This is certainly not descriptive of the days preceding the rapture. In the Hebrew prophets, it refers to a later time. Furthermore, this invasion is said to take place during a time when Israel is living at peace, as we read in Ezekiel 38:11. In the time before the rapture, Israel is not living in peace. Hezbollah and Hamas are lobbing rockets into the Holy Land. The Iron Dome missile defense shield has to be ready for a volley of rockets that may be fired at Israel at any time. Residents frequently hear the sirens warning them to take cover. A second view says that the Gog-Magog invasion takes place after the rapture, but before the tribulation. Dr. Thomas Ice holds to this view and says this war will occur during the interval of weeks, months, or years between the rapture and the start of the tribulation. He argues that in the rapture a great number of Christians will disappear, weakening America. Russia will see this as an opportunity to attack Israel, and will do so with a coalition of modern nations. But the question is, will Muslim nations join with atheistic Russia? They've already done so. Russia has employed military units from Chechnya to fight against the Ukrainians. Chechens have been used in assassination attempts on Ukrainian President Zelensky. A third view says the Gog-Magog invasion will take place during the first half of the tribulation, which is a popular view, a view being held by men like John Walvoord, Dwight Pentecost, Charles Ryrie, and Mark Hitchcock. This view certainly satisfies the condition that Israel will be at peace during the first half of the tribulation. This period of peace will grow out of Israel signing a peace treaty with the revived Roman Empire. If the Gog-Magog war takes place during the first half of the tribulation, as supporters of this third view contend, the destruction of the Muslim forces by God in this war will create a power vacuum. In the absence of Muslim forces, the Antichrist will be able to consolidate his forces and attain world domination. The Antichrist, one world religion, will find opportunity for rapid growth. Arnold Fruchtenbaum, however, asks, why would God miraculously intervene on Israel's behalf, as described in the Gog-Magog war, only to allow events in the second half of the tribulation to do great damage to Israel? Another view that is becoming popular is the view that the Gog-Magog war occurs at the end of the millennium. In Revelation 20, verse 7 and following, we read, "And when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison, and shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle, the number of whom is as the sand of the sea." In both Ezekiel 38 and 39 and Revelation 20, a great multitude is involved. And in both passages, God is the one who defeats the invaders. This view explains Israel's prosperity and the nation living in a time of peace in unwalled villages. However, as can be expected, many have raised problems with and objections to this view. Ezekiel 38 and 39 is part of a larger section of material dealing with the restoration of Israel, and we see that in chapters 33 through 39. Following this, with Ezekiel chapter 40 and following, we have the millennial temple, which suggests that the millennium follows the war of Gog and Magog. In contrast, Revelation 27 through 10 speaks about a war after the 1,000-year millennial period. One thing is certain, at this present time, what is happening in Ukraine does not match Ezekiel 38 and 39. What is significant about the Ukrainian situation is the great unity that we see in the world over the invasion of Ukraine. Both Christians and non-Christians, both conservatives and liberals, are horrified at the brutality of the Russian soldiers. Most of the world supports Ukrainian President Zelensky. What do we make of this worldwide unity and support for Ukraine? It may simply be a prelude to a worldwide unity under the government of the Antichrist, the so-called New World Order. War is ugly, and the idea of a nation like Russia with a leader like Putin is a dangerous combination. Will all the nations of the world demand national disarmament? Will the world step in line under the leadership of a world leader? That is certainly a possibility. On the other hand, if we look at the Roman world of the 1st century AD, there's a parallel. Rome was certainly not friendly to Christianity. Judaism was legal, Christianity was not. However, the Roman Empire produced what is known as the Pax Romana, the Roman peace. Rome's military might had produced a period of peace all over the empire. A system of roads and highways made travel possible. Piracy and banditry was at a minimum. It was a period that was favorable for the Apostle Paul and others to travel throughout the empire preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ. It is possible that the current unity that we see may produce many opportunities for witness and evangelism. Whatever this unity means, however, our responsibility is still the same. We are to go into all the world to make disciples of all nations. The call to reach out to Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and the farthest reaches of the earth is our field of endeavor. Will we be faithful? That is the real question.